I'm Calvin Weiss, president of Calibrate Blockchain. Our products drive the digital transformation of healthcare. We have the leading edge home diagnostic testing platform, and we're launching COVID-19 and health critical blood tests on it. Our first blood test to market is COVID-19 immune response antibody test. It's ultra convenient. Draw your blood at home from a finger prick, drip it into our lateral flow collector card, and drop it in the mail. It's not just a single test. It's a series of tests anytime you want that get better and better each time. It's among the most accurate antibody tests reported. It's not just a single signal. It's a dual antigen, the full trimeric spike and the receptor domain, and dual isotype, IgA and IgG. At production cost less than $4 per test, there's wide latitude for pricing for the masses. It can be launched within weeks. COVID Clear goes beyond immunity to include susceptibility and diagnosis. It's exactly what everybody wants. When launched, it will have nearly infinite demand. COVID Clear requires a clinical study to curate very large data sets of COVID-associated conditions and outcomes. Using the Health Drop app, daily COVID-associated symptoms and underlying conditions are collected from study participants, and blood samples are dripped and dropped into the mail. Deep learning artificial intelligence platforms are deployed to learn the mapping between conditions and outcomes. With these mappings, people will be equipped to manage through the pandemic anytime they want. Up to 1 million people are needed to enroll in this clinical study to curate data and blood. We've done market research to assess the enrollment demand for not only providing data and blood, but also donating $35 to fund this study. Over 26% of respondents indicate they definitely would, and another 36% indicate they probably would enroll. This is a lot of demand to send us both blood and money. We were surprised at this result, particularly when no results from the blood samples are provided back to the enrollees. It appears that there is a strong altruistic interest widely held throughout the population to do something meaningful for the pandemic. Our COVID-19 tests are extensions of the Coviplex antibody response assay developed by NMI at University of Tübingen that has the highest reported accuracy of any leading antibody test on the market. Our COVID-19 tests are a time series of tests. Each test increases the accuracy. With the first test already among the most accurate, our COVID-19 tests will become the gold standard. Our COVID-19 tests are provisioned at home. This makes them much more convenient, much less expensive, and much higher demanded. Our COVID-19 tests are based on multiple measurements from each blood sample. Health Drop Clear is expected to be capable of diagnosing COVID-19. Health Drop Clear is expected to be capable of characterizing susceptibility. It can predict the severity of COVID-19. Health Drop Immunity's initial formulation can be launched within a few weeks. Health Drop Clear clinical trial can be launched within 2 or 3 weeks, which will generate our first revenues. From the initial formulation, we have a pathway towards scaling to the population. Recent studies demonstrate that immunoglobulin immunity does not persist. Within 60 to 90 days, the initial high titers of SARS-CoV-2 antibodies diminish. This suggests that the life cycle for Health Drop Clear may persist for quite a long time. Society may be muddling through for years. Health Drop Clear will be an important tool to equip people to muddle through. There is nearly infinite demand for Health Drop Clear. As soon as it launches, it will be an essential consumer product. I had a friend, let's call him Bob. Bob was into endurance sports, big into road bikes, running, smoothies, vegetarian, all of it. A rising healthcare executive with 4 beautiful daughters, Bob marked the epitome of health, kindness, and leadership. Until one day, Bob was out for his normal morning jog when, halfway through his route, Bob collapsed from sudden cardiac arrest. Bob spent 4 days in the ICU, but the damage to his heart was beyond repair. He never regained consciousness and died in that ICU. Bob never knew he had heart disease. He didn't meet any of the known risk factors and showed no symptoms of heart disease other than sudden cardiac arrest. The sad thing is, heart disease, in most cases, can be effectively treated, even reversed, if it's caught early enough. We think there is a way Bob could have known he had heart disease early enough. We think there is a way we could know if someone had thyroid disease early enough, kidney disease, liver disease, or even prostate cancer early enough. Armed with just a little more information about what is going on in our bodies, our nurses, doctors, and scientists would make meaningful, measurable progress towards finally staying many of the maladies and conditions which plague our society at the population level. Sudden cardiac arrest is one of the leading causes of death in the United States. The information we need to rout out Bob's heart disease was there all along. Inside of Bob, that critical information is in our blood. Take sudden cardiac arrest, for example. For decades, we've tested blood for troponin, an indicator of myocardial necrosis, to confirm cases of myocardial infarction in emergency rooms across the world. High-sensitivity troponin blood tests can be used to screen for heart disease early enough to effectively treat this disease before it's too late. But this blood test would cost you around $100. This cost is simply too high to justify using this test for heart disease screening anyway. If we tested everybody's blood for signs of myocardial necrosis, our healthcare system would grind to a halt. But what if that test were, say, 25 cents? Such cost models can be achieved. That's what Calibrate Blockchain is all about. We have found we can achieve this with mass spectrometry. This is a mass spectrometer. It is the gold standard for blood testing. We are making it the workhorse for blood testing. You see, with mass spectrometry, lots of blood tests can be done on the same sample with negligible cost for each test. For over 10 years, we have been solving the problems of how to take this most sophisticated, extremely expensive form of blood testing and unleash its massive analytical power to make blood testing ultra accurate, ultra convenient, and ultra affordable, so that this kind of testing can be accessible to anyone, anywhere. Instead of a la carte, on-demand, need-to-know blood testing that is ordered by doctors in response to medical indications, with our mass spectrometry method, we test for everything, every time, for every order. We then store these blood test results in your own self-sovereign personal health record So whenever you need health care from anyone, anywhere, your blood test with its history is already done, and your doctor can utilize this critical, rich information. Bringing low-cost mass spectrometry to the masses is now possible via two new and novel mass spectrometry techniques developed here at Calibrate Blockchain. The solid surface-free isolator and the concentrator. Our solid surface-free isolator was conceived in response to the teaching and tutelage of Dr. Thomas Juice, head of biochemistry at the NMI at the University of Tübingen. Dr. Juice is a foremost expert in the field of protein arrays. The isolator isolates annelids in our blood. It's like taking needles out of haystacks without any hay. It is nearly ready to integrate into our blood testing method. Our acoustical levitating concentrator was conceived in response to the teaching and tutelage of Dr. Richard Yost, head of analytical chemistry at the University of Florida. Dr. Yost is the inventor of the tandem mass spectrometer, which is the most widely used form of mass spectrometry, and he currently serves as the president of the American Society of Mass Spectrometry, the largest scientific society for mass spectrometry. Our concentrator uses acoustic levitation to hold the sample droplet in a containerless node for evaporation. With no container surfaces to contend with, the sample droplet can be evaporated to any volume desired. Our target is 1 nanoliter, at which point the molecules we are testing are about 10,000 times more concentrated than they are inside your body. When the sample droplet is sufficiently concentrated, we capture it into a capillary tube simply by contacting the capillary to the sample droplet so that the capillary forces draw the concentrated sample droplet inside. Dr. Yost also taught us that mass spectrometry instruments are idle most of the time, as much as 99% of the time. During that idle time, the instrument is waiting for the annulate to be injected. Using segmented flow ionization with discrete samples loaded from our levitating concentrator, mass spectrometry can be done at much higher duty cycles that process 1 to 10 samples per second. We now have our method that can test any protein that is detectable in blood operating on a commercial basis. We are implementing our novel isolator and concentrator so that more blood tests can be detected and so that cost behavior becomes negligible. With these, our method can do an entire panel of blood tests on a sample small enough to be drawn by the user at home, dropped in the mail with results delivered on your smartphone at a cost that is affordable for all. I'm Calvin Weiss. Thank you. We are planning to launch Health Drop Heart that will inaugurate cardiac troponin as your heart health signal. Calibrate's Health Drop blood test is changing the way blood testing is done. Instead of a la carte, on-demand, need-to-know blood testing that is ordered by doctors in response to medical indications, with Calibrate's mass spectrometry method, Calibrate tests for everything, every time it is ordered by consumers. You see, with mass spectrometry, lots of blood tests can be done on the same sample with negligible cost for each test. Calibrate stores those blood tests in the user's own self-sovereign personal health record. So whenever the user needs health care from anyone, anywhere, their blood test with its history is already done. Health Drop will do dozens of blood tests from a drop of blood that is ultra convenient, ultra affordable, and ultra precise. Drawn from a finger prick at home. Low enough cost so that it is affordable to the masses of humanity with high clinical relevancy. We have been collaborating with foremost experts for more than a decade in the development of the Calibrate blood testing method. We encountered a potential investor who is one of the most avid University of Florida Gator fans in Orlando. After he read my document that described our blood testing process, he told me that it would be very useful if I could find a Gator scientist who could read and understand my document. I searched and found Dr. Richard Yost, head of analytical chemistry at the University of Florida and at the time, president of the Faculty Senate and member of the Board of Regents that governs all the Florida State universities and the inventor of the most widely used form of mass spectrometry. Dr. Yost was clearly qualified, but I thought it would be hard to get his time since he was such a busy and important professor. Within a week, he got me in front of Dr. Yost where I gave him the paper and the investor asked him to read and analyze it. That collaboration has continued now for over 10 years. And now Dr. Yost just finished his term as the president of the American Association of Mass Spectrometry. Early in the project, I was introduced to Dr. Thomas Juice, foremost expert in the field of protein arrays and head of biochemistry at the NMI at University of Tübingen. I found out later that about 1 month before I was introduced, he published an editorial in a scientific journal that explained all the reasons why this kind of blood test would not emerge in the foreseeable future. And his scientific lectures include a slide that curates the failures of projects attempting to do this. Dr. Juice is a German scientist that admits he sees glasses half empty, who came to our project with great skepticism. Dr. Juice has just reported on the Coviplex assay. This study demonstrates that Coviplex is the most accurate antibody assay for SARS-CoV-2 immunity. Coviplex measures 4 antibody signals in each blood sample, where most all the other assays only measure a single signal. Our Health Drop immunity assay is formulated with the same 4 antibody signals that Coviplex measures, and our Health Drop Clear extends the number of measured signals to 9. We expect Health Drop immunity to demonstrate accuracy similar to the Coviplex.
Sign in, fill out the forms, and we'll be with you when we're ready.
Ever been here? Yeah, you have. Well, let me show you Form Drop. Form Drop lets you scan medical forms with your phone camera. Form Drop then automatically fills out your forms and faxes or emails them directly to your doctor's front desk. All you do is take your phone and scan your medical forms. Then Form Drop, using human augmented AI, maps, digitizes, and saves your blank forms on a blockchain. Form Drop then fills out your forms with answers you've saved in Form Drop. If Form Drop encounters a question for which it doesn't know the answer, it simply prompts you for your answer, with the option to save it for the future, of course. Form Drop then automatically fills out your forms and faxes or emails them directly to your doctor's front desk. It works everywhere, anywhere, the first time. It even works when your doctor doesn't know what it is or that you're even using it. Because Form Drop is saving all these blank forms on the blockchain, and if anyone else is using Form Drop at your doctor's office, you won't even have to scan the forms. You just search for your doctor, hit the little fill out form button, and boom. Your forms come out before you're even done waiting in line. Well, there you have it, folks. Form Drop can make your, and possibly her, life just a little bit easier. Now, doctors and hospitals, we have certainly not forgotten about you. Form Drop will soon be available as an SDK so that you can embed the amazing patient experience of FormDrop inside your native apps or patient portals. So make sure to visit www.universalpatientindex.com today to register for your FormDrop SDK before it's too late.
HealthDrop Form is changing the way patients fill out their stack of forms on clipboards. HealthDrop Form has high user engagement coupled with high clinical relevance, such that when used by patients, doctors will want and need to use HealthDrop Form. With it, you kiss the clipboard goodbye. When anyone gets any clipboard with any stack of forms at any point of care, the patient can simply click an image of each form using their smartphone, and HealthDrop Form will fill each form and then fax or email them to the receptionist. HealthDrop Form makes two promises to the patient. One, it will fill any form from anywhere. And two, it will only ask for information one time. If the information on a form has been filled out before on any other form, it will use that information from the other form. The demand for this form filling app is nearly universal. Almost everyone immediately empathizes with this app. Nearly 60% of all healthcare encounters require a form to be filled out. About 90% of users in our market research express a positive interest in using this app. The addressable market is huge. There are over 800 million clipboards each year in US healthcare, and the competition is the ink pen. The business model for filling forms is very rich, derives from the value of the information stored on these forms. This information is some of the most private, sensitive, and valuable that a user owns. In this age of digital privacy abuse, the monetization of this highly valuable information can only be undertaken in partnership and under the direction and control of the user. Calibrate acts in the role of agent and broker for the user's monetization of their data asset curated by filling these forms. With this business model, the user never pays for filling out their forms. They get paid for the monetization of the data, and huge wealth inures to Calibrate as the sole broker of this data. HealthDrop Form is a coin-operated app. Calibrate coins are required to fill forms. Hospitals have the opportunity to sponsor the app by providing users with the Calibrate coins they need to fill their forms. The user chooses which, if any, hospital they want to sponsor filling their forms. In exchange for providing Calibrate coins, the user grants the hospital access to the forms filled with the coins the hospital chosen by the user provides. There's increasing need and interest by hospitals in knowing patients better in order to anticipate health needs and influence health choices. The healthcare landscape continues to put more and greater responsibility on hospitals for patient health outcomes and health status. While hospitals have rich information on the what, when, and where of patients inside their networks, they are virtually unaware of the what, when, and where of patients outside their networks, either what their patients are doing outside their networks or what other patients outside their networks are doing. Knowing the what, when, and where of patients outside their network shifts the healthcare market. Hospitals with this knowledge can gain important advantages. Sponsoring the HealthDrop Form provides hospitals out-of-network visibility for the patients that the hospital sponsors. Beyond hospital sponsorship fees, rich monetization opportunities inure by the prescience created by intimate, timely medical information and eminent meeting with doctor. The highest monetization opportunity of this prescient moment may be drug messaging. The current drugs the patient has taken are on the forms. The condition of the patient can be derived from the data on forms. Drug companies seeking to switch patients from competitors' drugs to their drugs would pay rich premiums for the opportunity to pitch their drug to the patient as an alternative to the drug the patient is taking at the moment just prior to the patient meeting the doctor. This is a lot like supercharging the Outcomes Health revenue model, of course without the fraud. The Health Drop brand development begins with Health Drop Immunity, progresses with Health Drop Clear, and the follow-on products. Because the demand for Health Drop Clear is nearly infinite, it will quickly become an essential consumer product, and the Health Drop app will be downloaded on millions of smartphones. This will strongly establish the Health Drop brand. This is an unusual opportunity to establish a brand with virtually no marketing cost. The follow-on products will be launched on the Health Drop app that is downloaded on millions of apps. The marketing resources to launch these follow-on products will be negligible. The Health Drop products are all built on the Universal Patient Index. As these products grow through consumer demand, the Universal Patient Index encompasses a larger and larger portion of the population until critical mass is reached. At critical mass, every healthcare enterprise will find it very attractive to connect and participate with the Universal Patient Index. Take a look at the Universal Patient Index.
John, hurry up, he's ready to sedate.
Let's hope they notice how many Johns seem to be out and about today. Like, maybe sometimes patients get a little mixed up or something. Like, who goes with who? And who is who? Anyway, these are just really identity matching problems. Like when your charts get mixed up. It's actually way more common than you'd think. It's just that it usually happens in little dumb ways. Like when they get your name spelled wrong at the pharmacy. Or maybe that photocopy of your license didn't really come out that great. See, the problem with these stupid little patient identification glitches is that they can really start to stack up. And they affect like literally every single transaction you have with healthcare. These kind of problems cost healthcare over $4.7 billion a year. But you know what? We can't fix this dumb little expensive problem. All we really need to do is stop using your name to pull up your chart. The Universal Patient Index finally makes this a reality. With the Universal Patient Index, you just show up at the doctor's office and show them a code, like a barcode. Patients can also use biometrics, like an EKG, in lieu of a barcode. The Universal Patient Index then tells your doctor's office your patient ID code. These codes are already in use at every hospital, pharmacy, and doctor's office. Every hospital's computer system assigns a unique code to every patient's electronic chart. This makes it easier for computers to use these charts and helps them keep track of which chart goes with you. The Universal Patient Index follows along with patients wherever they go for healthcare and automatically collects all their patient ID codes, which are different everywhere. Then, when you show up at the hospital or doctor's office, the Universal Patient Index tells the hospital's computer system your patient ID code so they can use it to find your chart. Using your patient ID code instead of your name and address guarantees they pull up the right chart every time. It works at the hospital. It works at the doctor's office. It works at the pharmacy. Because patients can use the Universal Patient Index anywhere, its impact on healthcare reaches far beyond just the front desk. Like when you want apps like Apple Health to connect and share information with your doctor or hospital, the hospital computers can use the Universal Patient Index to instantly authenticate your identity with no special effort on the part of the patient, so the hospital can be sure sure they are sharing your data with only you. Today they use a method called ID proofing, which needs you to be at the hospital in person, or they'll make you wait a week and send you a special code in the mail. The Universal Patient Index can also be used for things like patient identity cross-referencing. Like when a doctor calls in a prescription to the pharmacy with UPI, they can know they are talking about the exact same person. This simple, fundamental need to keep track of which chart goes with which patient is the root cause of many of the problems which ail our data-intensive healthcare industry. This is why the Universal Patient Index is the missing link, essential to every health transaction.
This will drive the digital transformation of healthcare. Millions of active users engaged in activities with high clinical relevancy is what is needed and what has never been seen to drive the digital transformation of healthcare. Millions of active users are engaged in health activities like Fitbit and Apple Watch. But these activities lack high clinical relevancy. They have not and will not drive the digital transformation of healthcare. The market is not lacking for digital products with high clinical relevancy. It's just that none of them have millions of active users. The now ubiquitous electronic health record is the best case on this point. EHRs manage, process, and store all manner of data with high clinical relevancy, but there are no implementations of EHRs that have attracted millions of active users. Calibrate is driving the digital transformation of healthcare by launching essential consumer products that have high consumer engagement coupled with high clinical relevancy, such that when used by consumers, doctors and hospitals will want and will need to use these products. In the course of his market research for one of these products, Dr. Summer Das reported that his research on the segmentation of the product's demand suggests what he described as an essential consumer product. He explained that an essential consumer product has no segmentation of demand. All market segments exhibit homogeneous and high demand. They are quite rare. The significance is that these products market themselves. The form and degree of marketing efforts have little effect on their high consumer demand across all market segments. The other critical property of these products is that their demand from consumers is not dependent on clinical adoption. This in spite of their high clinical relevancy. These engage consumers in activities with high clinical relevance that do not depend on their adoption by doctors or hospitals. But their high clinical relevance makes doctors and hospitals want and need to use them. As more and more consumers use them, more and more doctors and more hospitals will want and need to adopt them. These essential consumer products will be mass marketed direct to consumer without dependence on clinical adoption. As such, they can and will be driven to saturation by well-known, appropriately deployed consumer marketing methods. As more and more consumers use them, more and more doctors and more hospitals will want and need to adopt them. This virtuous cycle, never seen before in health information, will drive the digital transformation of healthcare. Calibrate is building and launching these essential consumer products on its digital health platform. The digital transformation of healthcare will be realized when a singular digital health platform gains a dominant position in health information such that any and every health information app will want and need to connect to it. Doctors and hospitals will want and need to connect to Calibrate's digital health platform in order to adopt Calibrate's high clinical relevance essential consumer products. As more and more consumers use them, more and more doctors and more hospitals will want and need to connect to Calibrate's digital health platform. This kind of highly scalable, virtuous cycle fueled by positive reinforcement has not been seen in health information. It will have outsized implications as it emerges as the singular commonality that patients and doctors and then hospitals each make richer and richer and more invasive connections to. These products that are useful to every doctor on earth can be marketed directly to consumers without making any sales to any doctors. Well-known, economically scalable, proven strategies for mass marketing products direct to consumers will be employed. As such, scale will be achieved by increasing the market spend on these mass market direct-to-consumer initiatives. There is no limiting factor to achieving market saturation of the massive healthcare market. The essential services that Calibrate's digital health platform provides to health apps it hosts include self-sovereign health identity to match patient IDs across healthcare. It is the missing link essential to every health transaction. Self-sovereign health record as the singular place where essential health information can be curated, managed, and controlled by consumers throughout their lifetime. Access to millions of active users. Healthcare is an information-intensive industry dominated by disconnected nodes of health information distributed across healthcare. Calibrate's digital health platform will emerge as the fabric that connects these nodes and creates unestimable value that will transform healthcare. Calibrate is not just about driving its essential consumer products to dominance. The value of Calibrate's digital health platform far exceeds the value of these products. In this world of consumption, it is important to care for the environment. Health Drop and the Universal Patient Index make important contributions along sustainability vectors. Patents have been issued related to mass spectrometry preparation methods. Additional subject matter is being vetted for potential patentability. We have a rich team with lots of experience. We expect to broaden and deepen this team as we grow. Rich and diverse revenue models will support and flourish for the various products and the Universal Patient Index. Calibrate is driving the digital transformation of healthcare through essential consumer products with high clinical relevancy. Instead of marketing toward medicine and healthcare, it markets directly to consumers. As consumers adopt these products, medicine and healthcare will naturally adopt them. With these products, consumers will drive the digital transformation of healthcare. Our first product for COVID-19 will have nearly infinite consumer demand, a phenomena that has never been seen in the history of mankind. Invest with us now to participate in driving the digital transformation of healthcare. Thank you.